What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS By The Numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC 283. We have Jamal Hill going against Glover Teixeira.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for an absolute banger of a card, a 15-fight card. We have the light heavyweight championship, vacant title between Jamal Hill, Glover Teixeira, and then we also have Davison Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno 4. So, and then just a really good card overall. I think from a DraftKings perspective, it's a little bit tougher than last week, I'll say. Last week, I was able to start the year with a takedown, was able to get first and second place. The only problem with last week was the first place tie was like a 120 person tie. So it was probably the most frustrating takedown I've ever got. But this week, there will not be that many ties. We have 30 different fighters to go through this week. Before we get started and get into it, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have not already, that'd be much, much appreciated as always. And yeah, guys, it's still a great time to sign up on DFSbythenumbers.com. I do a ton of content on the website there. With the DFS option, what makes this option the most valuable is the optimizer. Easily is the optimizer. You got $10 a month there. I'm still doing the promotion. This is the last week I'm doing it, where if you do sign up for a yearly membership, I will send you a free t-shirt. So you're not only getting the yearly membership 10% off from 120 to 108, but I will add in a free t-shirt. I'll be sending all the rest out on Saturday. So be sure to sign up. Targets, rankings, projections, ownership projections, I mean, you name it, articles, tons of stuff behind the scenes that I do on DFSbythenumbers.com. So appreciate everybody that has signed up already and to who will sign up in the future. But I say we get into it, and we're going to start as always with our fight doesn't go to decision lines, and this has to be on paper one of the most violent cards ever. I mean, this is some of these lines are just crazy. We have Shamil Abdurakhimov going against Jailton Almeida. We have the fight doesn't go to decision line at minus 900. I see it already at minus 1300 on some books. It's safe to say that this fight's going to finish inside the distance. Typically, when we have a fight doesn't go to decision line this wide, you want to maybe target both sides. I'm not here, and I don't think anybody's going to. I'm all over Jailton. The only problem, this week, he is 9,700. The last time there was a 9,700 fighter, it was Joe Pyfer against Alan Amedovski, I believe it was. And I'm going to try my best to get as much Almeida as possible. I do think it's going to be kind of tough this week. He's just so expensive, but he has the highest upside on the slate, and it's really not even close. He should get Almeida. He should get Shamil out of there in the very first round. So all over Shamil in this first matchup, not targeting both sides. Give me Almeida for the first round win. I'll have as much as I can. Next, we have Paul Craig going against Johnny Walker. Anytime Paul Craig fights, you want to target his fights, and you want to target them both sides. I mean, this is a pretty close fight, and I could see this fight going one of two ways. Either Johnny Walker goes out there and knocks out Paul Craig in the first round, and I think that's the most likely, or Johnny Walker either A, knocks down Paul Craig, or B, Paul Craig pulls guard, and Paul Craig gets a submission off his back like he tends to do, right? So this is a borderline must target fight for me. Johnny Walker, 8,700. I think he has first round knockout upside. And you always got to play Paul Craig on DraftKings because he's always live for a submission against anybody in the division. I mean, he finished Jamal Hill. He finished Magomed Ankalaev. He's that dangerous. And it could happen here if Johnny Walker messes around on the mat. So this fight, I will have both sides. I do lean towards Walker knocking this guy out. But Paul Craig at 7,500 is one of the more intriguing dogs on the slate for the price. Next, we have Terrence McKinney going against Ismail Bonfim. And just like Paul Craig, this is a Terrence McKinney fight, and that means you're going to want to target it. Terrence McKinney, I believe he has 16, 17 fights. Only one of those fights has went over 1.5 rounds. This guy is a killer be killed fighter and somebody you want in your lineups. They have him priced at 8,500, and his opponent, Ismail Bonfim, at 7,700. It's safe to say that this fight doesn't end inside the distance. It does probably end under 1.5 rounds, and quite frankly, it probably ends in the first round. This is a borderline must-target fight for me once again. Going to be a little bit higher on McKinney, but would not shock me in the slightest if Bonfim was able to weather the 2-minute and 30-second storm that McKinney's going to bring and finish McKinney in late first, early second. So another fight I'm going to be very heavily exposed to, and another fight you got to be both sides. Both these guys are live for a finish in an early one as well. And then finally, we have Jamal Hill Going against Glover Teixeira, we have the fight doesn't go to decision around minus 550, even wider on some books. It's hard to imagine this one going the distance as well. A striker versus grappler matchup. And look at these prices. Jamal Hill, 8,400. If he wins, it's by knockout. He's on the optimal lineup. Glover Teixeira, 7,800. If he wins, it's by submission. He's on the optimal lineup. Another scenario where both guys have paths to victory, and both guys have paths to victory to score a ton. So, these fights especially, Walker, Craig, McKinney, Bonfim, and Hill Teixeira, are fights I'm going to have a ton of because it's hard to see him not scoring well. So, going to be all over these fights, plus Almeida, not touching Shamil. All right, let's get to our core plays. We talked about him a little bit. Jailton Almeida, 9,700. I mean, the dude's a minus 1,000 favorite, and for a really good reason. I'm not even convinced this fight does happen. Shamil's pulled out like the last 5 times, but if this fight does happen, expect Almeida to get 1 takedown, and it's probably only going to take 1 takedown for him to finish the fight. Maybe get some ground and pound in there, maybe get some control time in there, but it's probably a first-round finish, and I can see him scoring 120, 130 in a mid to late first round win. Highest upside on the slate. I'm going to try my best to get to him. I have not created lineups yet. I'm going to do so either today or tomorrow, but I'm going to try to get as much Jailton Almeida as possible. Next, we have Johnny Walker, 8,700. Like I said, you want to target this fight. You want to target it a lot. I personally lean towards Johnny Walker at 8,700, getting the first-round knockout. And a first-round knockout at 8,700 is going to score very well. I think he has a huge advantage on the feet, and he knocks out Paul Craig. He just has to fight smart, which Johnny Walker fighting smart, it's hard to trust, but he should go out here and knock out Paul Craig. Just don't go in his guard. Don't go in his guard. So I'll have a ton of Johnny Walker, but you best believe Paul Craig's a great dog as well. Terrence McKinney, we talked about him as well. Terrence McKinney's insane. He has a ton of power. I mean, the guy almost knocked out Drew Dober twice. He has great submission ability. His opponent's been submitted 3 times. He has great wrestling, crazy pace. The cardio is a concern, certainly, but if he wins this fight, you got to think it's like he has 60-second upside, right? Like if he wins this fight, it's going to be more than likely in the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds. If it gets past the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds, there's going to be some problems. But man, he has a ton of power. He has a ton of finishing ability, and you have to target Terrence McKinney no matter what. And then we have Josiane Nunes, 9,500. I think this is a smash spot for Josiane Nunes. I think Zara Farn is the worst fighter on the card by a mile here. It's a low-level fight, but another fight where I don't see this fight getting out of the first round. I mean, Josiane Nunes has a ton of power. Zara Farn, her hands are low, her striking defense is terrible, and if Nunes gets this fight down to the mat, it's over. Zara Farn does not have a ground game to speak of. Should be Josiane Nunes. I think she's very safe for cash games especially, and I think she has a high ceiling, and I think she's going to go pretty under-owned as well. Everybody's going to go up there and try to get Almeida, and rightfully so. I'm going to get some Nunes as well. I like Nunes to finish this fight and finish it probably in the first round and put up a really good score. All right, getting into our GBP plays here, our tournament plays. We have Gilbert Burns, 9,300. I like this matchup a lot for Gilbert Burns. Neil Magny, what does he typically struggle with? And the answer to that is the ground game. Neil Magny, a little bit above a 50% takedown defense, but Neil Magny's been submitted 5 times in his career, and you're telling me he's going against Gilbert Burns, who, the wrestling's not the best in the world, but he has the ability to get it down to the mat, and when Gilbert Burns gets the fight down to the mat, it's going to be night and day. This guy is going to go out there and he's going to submit Magny if he does get on top, and I see no reason why he can't. So, yes, he's going to be at a height and reach this advantage, but, Gilbert Burns should get this fight down to the ground, and when he does, he's super dangerous, high-level grappler. I like Burns by sub, and at 9,300, I'll have my fair share of him. Gregory Rodriguez, 9,100. The fight doesn't go to decision here is missed the list, but it's like minus 500. I saw like a minus 600 on a book. These guys are going to stand and bang. Bruno Ferreira, Gregory Rodriguez, both these guys have a ton of power. Bruno Ferreira has never seen the over 7.5 round mark of a fight, and I don't think that changes here. Rodriguez, an incredible grappler. He doesn't choose to use it. He wants to stand and bang, and that's kind of what I expect here. I like him to knock out Bruno Ferreira and do it in the very first round and put up a huge score. And yeah, curious to see what the ownership is going to be on Rodriguez. Like I said, everybody's going to gravitate towards the Almeidas, guys like that. I'm hoping Rodriguez comes in a little bit under-owned, but it should be another smash spot where he gets a first round knockout, but somebody's getting knocked out in the first round of this one, I think. Jamal Hill, 8,400. Yeah, I mean, you got to play him, right? You got to play this main event. You got to play the main event we'll talk about in a second. Typically, you could go out and try to fade a main event here and there, but not this week, not at these price tags. Jamal Hill, 8,400. Like, if he wins this fight, it's going to be optimal. He has first round, second round, third round knockout upside. He has high volume upside. You got to like some Jamal Hill. I think it's a close fight. I really do. In terms of my ownership personally, I think it's going to be pretty close, pretty split. just about 50-50 because I could see paths to victory for both guys. But yeah, 8,400 for Jamal Hill. If he wins, he's going to be optimal. Okay, next we have Deiveson Figueiredo, 8,200. I'm going 100% on this fight. I mean, I don't see in what world at these price tags, 8,200 for Figgy, 8,000 for Moreno. In what world does this fight not end up on the optimal lineup? Like, I know this is a 15-fight slate. I get that. But, these guys are scoring a ton. And we have a great sample size, right? Like, these guys are scoring a ton in their wins. Even in the draw, I remember, they put up, huge scores in the draw. Like, even with the draw, they still did very, very well in the first fight. But, obviously don't see a draw happening here. I think somebody's going to win this fight. And if Figgy does win at 8,200, expect knockdowns, expect some takedowns, expect a ton of significant strikes. It probably goes 5 rounds. And I just think the floor of this fight is phenomenal. Like, this is a fight where I don't mind stacking it in cash because I think this does go the full 5, and I think both guys are going to put up a ton of points. But the winner especially, I think, has a great chance to find his way on the optimal lineup. So I'm going to be close to 100% owned on this fight as a whole. And in terms of my ownership, another one that's pretty close. I see this fight going either way. It's hard to have a strong lean. These guys are just very, very, very closely matched, and we've seen it 3 times in a row, right? So give me some Deiveson for sure. All right, live dogs. Glover Teixeira, we talked about it a little bit. Teixeira has a path to victory. That path is the takedowns. We've seen Jamal Hill taken down. Jamal Hill does do a great job at getting back up, but Glover Teixeira is not Thiago Santos. He's not Darko Stosic. If Teixeira gets on top of you, the fight could be over shortly after. So yeah, as far as dogs go, Glover Teixeira is one that absolutely sticks out at 7,800. Brandon Moreno, 8,000. I'm personally on the Moreno side ever so slightly. I've picked Figgy 3 times in a row. This time I'm switching it up, due to Figgy being 35 now, due to Figgy, having problems with the weight cut. And, I like the fact that Moreno is younger at this point, and we have not seen Figgy in about a year. So I slightly lean Moreno. I like that he's cheaper as well, 200 cheaper. That could, go a long way. And I will have a lot of Moreno. Like I said, I don't know what my ownership's going to be yet, but it's probably going to be very close with a slight lean of Moreno, just due to that he's dog money, and I am picking him, but a must-fight target in my opinion. Paul Craig, speaking of a must-target fight, 7,500. Somebody's getting served here. Somebody's getting served here in the first round, whether it's a Paul Craig sub, which is always live. Like, anytime Paul Craig is on the slate, you have to play him. He is live against anybody in the world at the light heavyweight division. Like I said earlier, he's beating Magomed Ankalaev, fluke or not. He's beating Jamal Hill, fluke or not. He's doing it. And if this fight hits the mat, he's live for a sub. So you got to have some Paul Craig this week, especially at 7,500. And then Ismail Bonfim, 7,700. What you're hoping with here is that Terrence McKinney gasses out. Bonfim weathers that early storm, and that's certainly on the table. Like, if Bonfim can last 2, 3, 3.5, 4 minutes, he's going to win this fight. But that's a big, big if, because he's going to have to walk through fire. So I'm personally on McKinney, but I will have my fair share of some Bonfim as well. Lots of fights this week where it's just so clear you should be targeting this fight. Like, it's kind of easy in that aspect, right? Like, you should be targeting the Paul Craig Walker fight. You should be targeting the Glover Teixeira Jamal Hill fight. You should be targeting the Brandon Moreno Deiveson Figueiredo fight. And if you target those 3, I think you're looking pretty good for this slate, because I'd be shocked if either of those 3 fights did not score well personally, especially at these price tags they're giving us, right? Moving on to our pump plays, I did put a couple here. Bruno Ferreira, 7,100. He's going against Gregory Rodriguez, and like I said, these guys are going to stand and bang. Ferreira, a 100% finish rate. Rodriguez has been knocked out, I believe, twice or maybe 3 times, and one of those times comes against Jordan Williams, who's Jordan Williams. And Bruno Ferreira can crack. So if Rodriguez stands and bangs with this guy, which he is, Ferreira is going to have his opportunities, and at 7,100, his upside the first round knockout. So I will be sprinkling some Ferreira here. And then the Juan Lacerda, 7,000, going against Cody Stamann. This guy has an 88% finish rate. I think he has how many wins does this guy have? He has 12 wins. I believe 10 of those are by sub. This guy's a legit BJJ black belt. His grappling's incredible. If he's able to get this fight down to the mat, whether it's, I don't think he takes down Stamann, but whether it's pulling guard or getting this fight down to the mat in any way possible, if the Juan Lacerda gets this down to the mat, he's going to be very live for a submission. Cody Stamann has been subbed twice. It was against very good competition in Said Nurmagomedov and Aljamain Sterling, but if this fight does hit the mat in any type of way, or if Stamann, goes for takedowns, he could get caught in something for the 3rd time in his career. So I will be taking some shots on Juan Lacerda at this price tag for his submission upside. And then fades, it's Cody Stamann. I feel like he could potentially get a finish here, and I think if he does, it's going to be late. But I just would be shocked if he went out here and tried to wrestle Lacerda. I think for Cody Stamann, he's going to have to use his defensive wrestling to keep this on the feet, and when it's on the feet, he will be the better striker. And Cody Stamann typically does not score well to begin with, unless he's fighting Eddie Wineland, but Lacerda's not a 40-year-old Eddie Wineland. So yeah, just pretty comfortable with fading Stamann, especially when there's so many plays up here in this top range. But yeah, this card is insane. Just a lot of fights that are going to finish, a lot of plays that are sticking out, like some other fights that are sticking out. The Ior Pateria, Shogun Hua fight, that's sticking out as a fight to target. We had Jessica Andrade up there that I didn't even talk about. We have Thiago Moises that I didn't even talk about. Gabriel Bonfim, the younger brother of Ismael, he's up there with a 100% finish rate. Just a very stacked card for a DraftKings perspective, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It makes it kind of tough for this week because there's just so many options to talk about. So really going to try to cut my player pool down and target the fights that I think are going to score well and the ones we talked about. So yeah, guys, that is about it. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys can please leave a like, I do appreciate that a ton. Subscribe to the channel. Check out dfsbythenumbers.com. I'm going to be working on that betting article. Hopefully get that out either late tonight, early tomorrow. The projections are up. I just got the ownership projections. The optimizers all loaded, ready to go. I'm going to be making my lineups either tonight or tomorrow as well. And yeah, so should be a good card. Follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. If you have any questions, and best of luck for UFC 283. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.